"We're letting you go, Cal. It's not personal, just alignment." I didn't ask questions, didn't argue. I folded my uniform shirt, once, then again, set it down on the table between us. "I understand," I said. "My name is Cal Whitaker. 56 years old. Senior commercial pilot. The office smelled like fresh plastic and bad coffee. No folders on the table. No severance paperwork. Just a screen behind the director looping corporate values. Safety, trust, efficiency. HR didn't say a word. She looked at the floor the entire time. I nodded once, stood, and walked out without shaking anyone's hand. The hallway outside was quiet. Too quiet for a Monday. No chatter. No laughter from dispatch. Just the hum of recycled air and shoes on linoleum. 2 flight attendants passed on my right. Mid-conversation, they stopped talking the moment they saw me. I didn't break stride. In front of the mural, old black and white photos of Altaver's first cruise, I saw my own face for a second. 3rd row, composite training, 2007, they hadn't taken it down yet. That would come later. At the locker room, I opened Unit 24B. The hinges squeaked. I'd meant to oil them last week. I unclipped my ID badge and set it inside, then reached up and pulled down a matte black box I hadn't opened in months. Inside, laminated checklist, flight logbook, and a folded sheet labeled Manual, Original. I turned the sheet once in my hand. There was also the wing pin from my first solo flight. I picked it up, held it, put it back, then I closed the box and locked it. The key slid into my left pocket, next to the old stopwatch clip mark. On my way out, I passed the simulator bay. Simons was in the left seat, running a takeoff drill with an instructor I'd trained 5 years ago. He didn't see me. Good. Further down the hall, someone was updating the crew board. My name wasn't on the list. Not even as standby. I didn't expect it. Still, I looked twice. The safety awards case was half covered in fingerprints. 3 plaques bore my name. One still had my handwriting on the emergency procedure prototype, a detail they never fixed. Kept walking. At the south gate, security looked up. We'd flown together once years ago before he grounded himself for family. He gave a small nod. I returned it. Nothing more. Outside, the wind cut sharp from the west. Taxi lights blinked across the apron like tired eyes. Runway 14R was active, a 737 lining up, tail number 729. I'd flown that one to Chicago, to LaGuardia, even to Panama City. Didn't stop to watch. Kept walking. One hand in my pocket, the other tracing the crease in my jacket. I passed gate C4. 2 first officers were reviewing their flight plan. I'd trained both of them. At the lot, I got in my car, didn't start it. The cabin was silent. From here, I could see the top of the terminal, clean, bright, impersonal. The Altaver logo reflected on the windshield. It looked smaller than I remembered. I opened the glove compartment, pulled out a leather notebook. It had a faint stain on the edge. Coffee or jet oil, I couldn't tell anymore. On the first page, I wrote one word, document, then closed it, set it down, and started the engine. I didn't look back. I showed up early. Always did. The lot was empty when I pulled in. Same spot, row B3. I sat for a second before heading in. Always liked hearing the birds before the jets drowned them out. Half the crew didn't notice, but ground control knew. I ran my own checks. Weather crosswinds, hydraulics, even coffee temperature. If we had jump seats, didn't need praise. Just liked it done right. When the aircraft changed models in 2015, I rewrote my own manuals, condensed the protocols from 80 pages to 12. Never published them, just kept them in my locker. I gave a copy to Simons when he started. He still uses it. Altaver didn't hire me as a pilot. I started on the ramp. Nights loading luggage, studied on brakes, got my license, moved to dispatch, then right seat, then left. They never gave me a headline, just routes, and I flew them. Quiet. Exact. Once a rookie tower controller misrouted a tug. I fixed it mid-taxi without a word. He thanked me months later, said I saved his job. The old CEO used to nod when we crossed paths. Once during a blizzard out of O'Hare, I brought a crew and 212 passengers home after 4 flights had turned back. I didn't make a speech, just filled out the report and went home. That's when I started training the younger guys. They asked questions. I gave straight answers. No theory, just rhythm. Wind angles, human limits. Then came Declan Hart, new Chief Operations Officer, MBA, from Stanford. 5-year plan in hand. He never flew. Never did a maintenance check. But he wore the Altaver pin like he earned it in combat. Called meetings, alignments. Called pilots human capital. We were numbers in a spreadsheet. My line was 09X retention. First thing he did, shorten turnaround time by cutting checklists. Second, shift overnight crews to digital-only logs. Third, announce cost alignment, which everyone knew meant cuts. He once said, "Delays aren't caused by fog. They're caused by fear of fog." That's when I stopped listening. He smiled when he spoke but never blinked. "You have legacy value, Cal," he told me once. "But legacy needs streamlining." I didn't respond, just watched the turbine test outside the window. Some of the new captains loved him. He brought in iPads, app trackers, biometric fatigue scans. They liked the buzzwords, but systems don't teach judgment. They don't scan a thunderhead and say, "Not this time." That's learned. Or lost. Ryan was different, young, yes, but grounded. He called me the night before his first night sim. "Captain Whitaker, what do I do if the ILS goes unstable on final?" I talked him through it. He passed. 2 tries later, but he passed. 2 weeks later, he left a coffee on my locker. Didn't say a word. Just a post-it. "Thanks." There was also Jim from maintenance. We started together on the ramp in '98. He was let go last year. Process redundancy. No farewell. No handshake. I kept his wrench in my glove compartment. Didn't tell anyone. My daughter, she's in Arizona, studying biomedical engineering. We talk less these days. She's busy. That's okay. She once mailed me a photo, her in front of a wind tunnel test rig. Said, "You taught me about lift." I didn't know she remembered. I send money. Every 15th, she doesn't ask. At night, I'd sit in Hangar 5, no lights. Just a flickering LED over the old radar console. The radar made a soft click every 12 seconds, calmer than any clock I owned. I'd listen to archived tower feeds, Atlanta, Boston, Denver. It was a kind of quiet that made sense. Declan once passed me on his way to the executive lounge. He didn't see me, didn't need to. He already had his numbers. The first sign was subtle. My access to flight rosters vanished. No error code, no message. Just gone. IT said to check with scheduling. Scheduling said it was above them. I stopped asking. They sent out a revised training manual. Looked familiar. Word for word from the one I wrote in 2015. No credit. Just a footnote. Updated by Executive Ops. Ryan got reassigned to Berlin. Came to shake my hand, paused, said nothing, just left a folded note in my mailbox. It read, "Didn't ask for it. Hope you're okay." I burned it that night. No use keeping sentiment. My email account was still active, but I wasn't copied on anything. Meetings happened. Routes changed. I heard about things in passing, from ground crew or mechanics. "Didn't you hear, Cal? Ops is shifting all night. Flights to drone-ready hubs." No, I hadn't heard. Then came the financial freeze, performance bonuses, under review, retirement package, pending audit. The word irregularities showed up in a report. No one explained what it meant, but it gave them cover. Jim from maintenance called once, said they were whispering about compliance flags on older logs. Mine. Logs that never had an issue. In 20 years, he said he'd check what he could. Next week, his number was disconnected. I tried to log into the diagnostic flight system. Blocked. Access restricted per ops security protocol. The manual I wrote now required clearance from a strategic flight officer, someone I'd trained. I got a letter from HR subject line, voluntary transition planning. It was framed like a retirement benefit, like I had asked to leave. I didn't reply. The Altair Bulletin announced the Whitaker procedures had been formally retired. New protocols in place. Shorter, digitized. They left my name out. Then came the incident. Flight 709, rookie captain. Rough crosswind. He pushed through final approach when he should have pulled out. 15-minute delay. 2 blown tires. No injuries, but close. The report said, weather anomaly. Pilots who read it knew better. That night, I sat at gate 4A. Empty terminal. Watched the replay footage from tower cam. Saw the mistake before it happened. He didn't compensate on the yaw. Didn't flare properly. It was all in the training module. The one they retired. Next morning, Declan sent a memo. Operational. Risks have been reviewed. No pilot error found. Of course not. The 8:30 ops brief kept happening. Same room, same coffee. My seat stayed empty. They didn't stop inviting me. They just stopped sending the invite. I walked past once. Through the frosted glass, I saw Ryan presenting, my checklist on the screen. No one looked up. Next week, my badge stopped working on the west side door. Probably a software reset, security said. It never got fixed. The framed photo from our first transatlantic crew, gone. Checked twice. In its place, a poster of Altair's new digital vision. The slogan read, "Efficiency is loyalty." They published a new handbook. Slick cover, QR code for updates. Inside, the same structure I wrote back in 15. Reworded just enough to erase the author. One of the new trainers quoted my own phrasing during a sim briefing. Didn't know it. Was mine. Didn't need to. I sat in the quiet lounge once early morning. 3 junior officers walked in. They nodded at each other, didn't see me, or pretended not to. Later that week, I parked on the far edge of Lot C, watched the morning rotation taxi out from behind the fence, saw the nose of Flight 823 ease forward, the one I used to fly. They'd changed its designation to Next Gen Lead. I recognized the markings under the fresh paint. Back in 2019, I filed a report on low visibility landings and crew fatigue, ran a full scenario sim on it with Jim. We warned ops that in certain crosswind patterns, the automated handoff failed. No, one replied. After Flight 709's incident, I looked for that report in the archive. It was gone. A week later, I walked past the exec lounge. Declan stood at the espresso bar. He was laughing. He didn't see me, or maybe he did. The Berlin flight departed. At 5:42, new crew, new checklist, Ryan in the left seat. I stood behind the tinted glass. No uniform, just a cup of vending machine coffee. They never saw me. They used my rhythm, my turns. But I wasn't part of the pattern anymore. A security guard passed and asked, "You good, sir?" I nodded once, tossed the coffee, and walked to the lot. Some things fly off course in silence. I didn't call a lawyer. I called Tim Kellerman, procurement officer from back in 2011, the guy who used to find loopholes in aircraft. "Leasebacks for fun," he answered on the first ring. "Still flying, Cal?" "Not lately." I figured. "You want to talk fuel clauses or licensing?" Checklists. We met at a diner just off runway 3. Tim brought a yellow legal pad and his old badge from Altair Logistics. I brought copies, flight logs, archived, training modules, revision histories. He flipped through in silence, finally said, "If they're using this and they've retired your name, you've got something." Tim stirred his coffee twice before speaking. "They were phasing you. Out the minute the drone protocols hit. You knew that, right?" "Maybe. You're not the kind of guy who files lawsuits, but you are the kind who documents everything." He tapped the edge of the folder. "They think clean desks mean no memory, but memory lives in systems. You kept the receipts." 2 days later, he filed a quiet notice. Claim of unacknowledged, procedural origin, under the 2012 Pilot Technical Contribution Agreement. It wasn't aggressive, just a line in the system, a polite flag on the field. I sent the notice from a prepaid courier with no return address. No threat, just citation. Tim said that was better. Quiet makes people nervous. A paralegal from ops called 2 days later. She didn't introduce herself, just said, "Off the record, and they didn't think you'd push back." Then hung up. By midweek, the atmosphere shifted. 2 crew leads copied me on procedural queries. Someone even left a printed copy of my checklist in the training room, legacy version. Highlighted, even Declan showed up at ops, first time in 2 months, asked if anyone had talked to me. No one admitted they had. That night my old badge pinged green for the first time in weeks. I didn't use it, just watched the light change, then turned away. The next morning I found a message under my door typed anonymous. "Declan pulled your files, says it's cleanup. Might want to check your backups." I didn't reply, just moved 3 drives into the safety box in my garage. Then came the shutdown. On Friday I received a letter, internal review outcome, violation of intellectual containment clause, effective immediately, full separation, no benefits. No eligibility for rehire, signed by Declan himself. The company sent out a bulletin, claimed my procedures had introduced excessive pilot dependence and limited digital adaptation. They didn't deny authorship, they just called it obsolete. Someone edited the incident report from Flight 709. The language changed. Where it once read, "Automation override not initiated," now it said, "Legacy input protocol delayed system. Response. Legacy." That's what they were calling me now. Jim stopped replying. His texts vanished. A week later, I heard he was on leave. Same phrase they used for people who weren't coming back. They called my checklist dependency architecture, said it restricted evolution, as if precision had an expiration date. I walked the neighborhood at dusk, empty streets. Light breeze, mail in hand, the envelope thick. Inside, a new agreement, legalese stapled to silence. It included language I hadn't seen before. Waiver of retrospective authorship. That meant, if I signed, I was never there. I read it once. Put it in a manila folder, marked it unused, filed it beside the others. That night I opened the flight sim in my garage, fired up an old scenario, crosswind, limited visibility. The same one that almost cost $7.99. I ran the sequence, used my own checklist, landed clean. I closed the laptop, locked the folder in the bottom drawer, poured myself a glass of water, stepped outside, didn't say a word. The envelope came by courier. No name, no company seal. Just a barcode and a neutral return address. Inside, a 4-page document. The title, Voluntary Procedural Waiver Agreement. The language, clinical, evasive, patronizing. It opened with, to support alignment during organizational realignment, midway. Through, to preserve shared legacy frameworks. And finally, a mutual understanding that retroactive attribution serves no institutional purpose. No mention of my name, no acknowledgement of the protocols, no compensation, just silence, packaged as professionalism. I folded the paper once, then again, filed it under, deferred, didn't say a word. That evening, I drove out past Kerr County, to a private airfield I used to fly cargo from. One runway, faded windsock, no tower, just the hum of dry wind and gravel under tires. I waited in Hangar B. The woman who stepped out of the unmarked plane didn't offer a handshake, just a badge. FRA technical oversight, no name. "You said you had logs," she said, powering. On her laptop. "Drives encrypted, codes inside," I replied. She connected the drive, tapped a few keys, didn't comment, just watched. I stood still, no explanation. Just presence. Inside that drive, procedural discrepancies from 5 major flights, conflicts between automated systems and revised inputs. One incident, Flight 314. Autopilot delayed 6 seconds after dual input clash. It mirrored the same edge case I flagged years ago, the one that nearly lost 709. She looked at that entry longer than the others. No emotion, no praise, just a nod. And then, "We'll review. You won't hear from us." Then she left. Perfect. 2 weeks later, it made a blip in the aviation bulletin boards. Altaver under federal procedure review. No names, no lawsuits, but 340 scheduled flights were reassessed due to procedural anomalies. Routes reevaluated, licenses revalidated. I didn't screenshot it, didn't email anyone, just saved a PDF in the folder titled Closure, Declan. Never called. But a technician I trained messaged me a photo. A conference room, empty, chair turned, nameplate gone, no memo. No press release, just absence. That's how people leave when they were never meant to be there long. 2 days later, I got an email. Regional Aviation Journal. Subject line, Legacy Stewardship, Interview Opportunity. The body said, Weed. Like to talk about what it felt like to be erased and remembered. I didn't reply. I deleted it, then cleared the trash. I wasn't interested in headlines, just in course correction. The final letter didn't come from the company. It came from the agency. One line stood out. Checklist 8B registered as Transitional Standard Protocol. They weren't crediting me. They were preserving the work. That was enough. I read it twice. Filed it next to the rest. No smile. No comment. That night I printed 3 fresh copies of the checklist. One for the safe, one for the glove box, one folded into the wallet slot where I used to keep my ID badge. Not because I needed them, because memory needs weight, and silence deserves structure. They rewrote the manuals. I kept the memory. The sun was low over the ridge. Not quite dusk. Not quite day, just that quiet hour when everything softens. I was in the hangar behind my house, same tools, same bench, the Cessna 172 still half covered in canvas. I hadn't flown it in months. Didn't need to. I just kept it clean. The air smelled of aluminum and dust. The floor was cold under my boots. Somewhere metal creaked as it cooled, the sound of things settling after pressure. I wiped the windshield with slow, even strokes, the kind they teach you when you're just starting. Not for the plane, for the mind. The shelf hadn't changed in years, old folded maps, a rusted fuel gauge I never replaced, a flashlight with corroded batteries, 3 laminated checklists, stacked precisely. I took the top one, ran my fingers over the edges. There was a note scribbled in the corner from 08. Trust the manual, not your mood. I slid the list into the side pocket of my flight bag. Not because I planned to go anywhere, but because the gesture still meant something. Outside, a kid on a bike wobbled down the dirt road. No helmet, loose chain. He passed the gate, glanced my way. I nodded. He lifted a hand, almost lost balance, then kept going. I watched until he was out of sight, then went inside, pulled a roll of reflective tape from a drawer, hung it on the outer fence post. Didn't write a note. Didn't call his parents, just left it there. Back inside, the radio crackled to life. Winds calm over Sector 5, visibility clear. I didn't turn it up, just let the static mix with the fading light. A voice in the background like memory you choose not to mute. My flight jacket still hung on the hook. Stiff now. Faded collar. The weight of use still pressed into the shoulders. Took it down, folded it along the seams, placed it in a box marked Ops Personal, secured the lid, didn't write a label, didn't need to. I filled the kettle. No coffee. No tea. Just water. Let it boil. Watched the steam rise, didn't move until it disappeared. I checked the lock on the back gate, tested the alarm on the door, turned off the porch light, manually, like always. Then I sat on the back steps. No jacket, no phone, just the night and my breath. I didn't think about Declan, didn't think about Altaver, didn't think about the envelope marked deferred. I just sat, not waiting, not remembering, just present. The checklist didn't fail. People did. The gentleman's revenge isn't loud, but it's always personal. If this felt personal, make it personal. Subscribe now, and don't miss tomorrow's story.